Ecology and Natural Materials are pleased to be hosting this first webinar in collaboration with ACAN Sweden on forestry practices and timber supply. Ruby will tell you a bit more about this new campaign, which is under the umbrella of Less Carbon, More Truth, a bit later on. Before we kick off, I'm sure most of you already know about ACAN, but for the benefit of the others in the room, I will give you a brief introduction into who we are and what we do. So ACAN is an open voluntary network of individuals in the built environment industry. It started in 2019 with a vision for how we could work autonomously as a collective of individuals in order to make rapid decisions and respond quickly to the climate emergency. Our manifesto's got three aims: decarbonize now, ecological regeneration, and cultural transformation. You can read a bit more detail about these here and on the ACAN website. I'll now pass on to Ruby to introduce the campaign and to the speakers.
Thanks very much, Aurore. So today we're kicking off our new campaign, which we are calling Less Monoculture, More Biodiversity. And this spans all three of those ACAN aims. As the built environment professions quite rightly increase our use of timber in construction, how do we ensure we are specifying from responsible forests that maintain healthy, carbon-storing soils, that support continuous and secure habitat for biodiverse non-human life, and that avoid a substitution of extractive fossil fuel-based industries with equally extractive bio-based industries? The UK imports 80% of our timber from abroad, relying upon legislation and industry practice in other countries to uphold these values. We are Sweden's biggest market for construction timber, for example, driving the demand that pressures their systems. We are very lucky to be joined today by Oskar Karlsson, Maria Karlsson, Anna Horst, and Malin Nylander from Gothenburg, Sweden, to tell us more about the production of timber there, both the mainstream monocultural production and alternatives. Oskar and Maria are both practicing architects, as well as forest owners and educators at Chalmers School of Architecture. We are very grateful to them for raising this issue and for sharing their broad knowledge and experience with us today. Please do post questions in the chat box as we go. We'll have time for about 15 minutes of Q&A with them at the end of their presentation. So over to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having us. We are really happy to be here to speak to you about forestry and wood, which we love a lot, all of us. And as Ruby was saying, why do we reach out to you? Well, because the UK is the biggest market for sawn wood products from Sweden. And this is a view of our country. And as you can see, it's almost 70% is covered with wood forest. A little bit of mire and quite not so much built up land and farmland as the UK. And of course, wood and forests it's hugely important for our history and identity as a country, not only the economical aspects, providing jobs, it's part of the architectural and cultural heritage. And it's been like that throughout history. And ACAN Sweden, we believe that the Swedish forestry, the standard Swedish forestry, the industrial wood production is not, it's not sustainable. It's highly problematic and even harmful to climate and biology. And we will try to explain this to you in this talk. So we do not really know what you know about Swedish forestry, but maybe you have come across something like this. This is the industry promoting or describing itself with fancy magazines, like the one you see there, trä, that means wood. It talks about resilience. It's translated into English, so you see that you are important to. You are an important client. And this magazine promotes the use of wood and has a lot of interesting projects, very often international. And it's actually covered with cedar, the tiles, our cedar, and we don't have that in Sweden, which is quite funny. And they also have a roadmap to the future that you might have come across. And well, the key takeaways from this is that the more we build, the more we use wood, the better. The more we build, better for the climate. They talk a lot about substitution effects, like if you substitute oil or fossil fuel with wood, even if you burn it, it's okay, it's beneficial. And promotes the standard model, clear-cutting model, and fertilizing and monoculture, and says that this is not in conflict with ecology or ecosystems, and that this intense method will actually capture more carbon. So it's like a system on speed. But please, when you read this information or you come across it, please remember that 96% of Swedish forests are managed with clear-cutting methods. This is referred to here as standard forestry. And the forest industry, which is an organization for forestry enterprises, the wood and pulp production, and also marketing. They spent 11 million British pounds on lobbyism during this 2017 to 2021, and this was uncovered by a Swedish journalist. So that's quite a lot of money. And they are also working against the implementation of the EU Nature Restoration Regulation. Since we are members of the EU, we have to implement these different regulations to improve nature and restore forests. And they are actually working against it. And maybe you have read something about this. These are some of the international reactions to our forestry. It's the French activist group Canopée Forêt Vivante making quite taking concrete action against SCA, which is a Swedish pulp and paper company, or the FSC and ASI, which are the organizations controlling the FSC on a national level. They have quite recently launched an investigation about how wood from protected forests end up in the FSC system. It happens all over and over again, and they are trying to put a stop to it because we are having problems with that here. Maybe you know that many global countries has stopped buying wood and pulp and paper from SCA, this Swedish company. Many L'Oreal and also Nestlé and Zalando stopped within the past 6 months or so. Or perhaps there's a company, Swedish company called Stora Enso that are now accused of severe environmental damage, severe animal damage, and damaging the environment in Finland after killing about 3,200 freshwater pearl mussel. And this is quite unique and exceptional, what happened in Finland, because usually the forest companies do not get prosecuted. But we are expecting the verdict later on this year. But I will now hand over to Oscar to explain about the system on a systems level. Like, we talk a lot about value chains, and this needs to be understood in its context.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're essentially an architectural firm, but we have moved very far into production of wood products and wood components and constructions. And this is a picture from where we're sitting right now. We have over time sort of built this prototype capability that's sort of changed how we work as architects. So in the rear end there, we have our vacuum drying kiln, and then we have a small sawmill and the standard sort of woodworking machines to give us the flexibility to work directly with like forest products like the timber. And in extension, then also being able to sort of work flexibly with different types of assortments of timber um, in our projects and helping others do the same thing. So for us and for essentially for everyone, the production of wood products starts in the forest, not just sort of metaphorically, but very practically, like how you tend your forest gives you different types of timber qualities in the end. So it's both interesting to look at the forestry as the production of our building products as a sort of economically sustainable way to tend to your forest properties, and also, of course, the biodiversity maintained. So in this image, this is from actually from our forest property, oh, not all of it, but from our property. And in this image, you can see a lot of different types of forestry models and different type of biotopes that is sort of shaped by how it's been processed and used over time. So nothing in this image is actually untouched by people. Everything that's true for Sweden as a whole, that we have no untouched, pristine nature anywhere. But we do have a lot of different biodiversity in our different types of sort of managed forests. So if you look on the other side of the lake, you have this traditional, like this clear-cut area that's sort of been cut for 5 or 6 years prior to this image, and you can see that the grass is not brown anymore, but it's not any trees growing back. And you can see sort of the marks in the ground where they have sort of scarified and turned over the soil in a very brutal manner to give sort of a head start for the plants over grass and other natural occurring life. And right next to it is the older version of the same principle, where you have a maybe 60 or 70-year-old forest that looks kind of natural on a distance. But if you look closely, you can see there's no deciduous trees. It's a monoculture and it's of the same age. Probably a little bit better in terms of genetic variation in the plants and maybe not as industrialized as a process. So it might be a little bit better. And then on this side of the lake, on the left side of the screen, is on our property, we have the prior owner to this property clear-cutted this area in the 90s, and it's now growing back. And that's an area that we are trying to disturb, sort of unindustrialize, to get more birch and aspen, which is naturally occurring, to blend in. So we're constantly cutting and sort of disturbing it to be more natural or self sort of sustained. But it's going to probably take a couple of 100 years before we get sort of a natural forest there. And then all these other arrows, different things, are very marked by man over hundreds of years. These are sort of where all the building on the lower left probably have its timber from the near forest. But also it's been a place to take out firewood and having animals in the forest. So this is a very sort of a lot of disturbance and interference, but the result is that the forest biotope has sort of reshaped around these actions to sort of be a very rich on biodiverse biotope. But it also means that it's very as a production forest, it's kind of a challenge because you have fantastic timber here and there, but then you also have very problematic sort of low production value areas, but rich on animals and mushrooms and such. So that's a bit of a challenge that we have to find a way to work and get sort of economical sustainability in these types of alternative forests. So just looking on the defining factors for these two types of forestry, we just bundle, there's a lot of different variants of these, but we just call the clear-cut forestry is what the common practice. And we start with that. Essentially, that's a forest that has sort of been fully adapted for being sort of the first piece of a industrial processing chain or value chain. So it's not so much a forest, but sort of a plantation. Of course, we have these cycles depending on the climate and where you are in Sweden, from 60 to 120 years. And it's cut in areas of 0.5 to 20 hectares normally. And that's about a football field to 40 football fields of size, just to get an image on how large they are. This is usually like a sort of an excuse from the industry to say that it doesn't matter that we brutally cut the forest down, because you have to think of the landscape perspective. But I think that's actually just makes it worse, because it's just a patchwork of different ages of really poor biotopes and sort of fake forests. One thing that is also very bad is the ground preparation when you take your lumber out or your timber out. The scarification process, where you essentially destroy the carbon storage in the ground, that is sometimes a lot more than actually the forest holds. By turning that over and cutting off the roots, you sort of speed up the decay process, and you kill all the mycorrhiza and the sort of the biomes in the ground. And you get a really rapid leakage of carbon dioxide, and also all the nutrients leak out into the lakes, and sort of depletes the soils of nutrients. So we have to put phosphor back with the new plants. So it's bad, bad, bad. So the plantation is the next damage that happens, because you now select a very small gene pool of same age plants and same genetics, and sometimes also phosphorus nutrition with it. And then for the forest owner, you have to sort of tend to this, because this is sort of like a laboratory forest, so it's not natural. If you did nothing, it would sort of destroy itself and readapt and sort of try to become more natural. So you have to sort of take grass out, you have to take birch out and aspen out, that sort of finds places to grow. So the reward is that you, at the end of the cycle, you get really great volumes, really easy to sell. But the downside is that it has very low unit value, because it's the buyer's market. There's a few actors buying all the timber, so they set the price, and it's an industrial price list. And also, of course, at this point, your whole wood storage is gone in a large area, and the market value for your property lowers significantly, which is going to have impact on the forest owner's economy. And of course, you get a monoculture and virtually no biodiversity for a long time coming. And on the other end, all the different forms of continuity forestry, or all the names for it, just basically saying that we trying to have a forest to adapt to a place over generations, so it sort of finds the right species at the right places, and the sort of the cooperation between species and can establish. And then from there, trying to see how can we make this work financially and logistically. So usually that means that you do lots of little outtakes of timber, and you focus on the larger and older trees, and that has two things going for it, because first of all, you get obviously good quality of timber, and a lot of it with few trees. But you also create these, when you take these big trees out, you usually have like 10 or 15 smaller trees waiting for that sunlight. So it really rapidly fills that hole, and you get sort of sun on the ground cover, which is sort of good dynamic and more natural dynamic in a forest. So usually if you do this right, you don't have to do any planting. Some exceptions on really meager grounds where you have to help it a little bit. It's a lot less destructive, of course, for the ground flora. You get a variation of ages, which is both a problem, but also is beneficial, because you skip that plant period where you get poor quality of of wood when it's too light and early in the plant's life. And then you obviously get like a greater variation of different species and different genetics and different sort of individuals of trees, which is both a challenge and uh, and a good thing. So one super good thing for as a forest owner is that you always have your maximum storage growing, and so you're not at a point where you decrease the value of your property. Um, and in theory, you could really get special qualities, unique qualities that has a lot higher market price. But the problem obviously is that we have to find a market for it to be able to get the money for it. So this is a really simplified version. What happens downstream from the forest? The forestry is the first part of the production. So downstream from the forest, on the left side, this is the common processing of wood products in Sweden. And already at the first stage, when you buy timber, you already make three assortments of all our forest and all the trees, and is sorted into three assortments. So either it's possible to make sawn timber from it, or it's sort of decent quality, but it's for some reason not, you don't want to saw it, so you make cellulose products, so pulpwood, and then all the tops and branches that usually just for energy or heat. So that's a really crude first sorting of all these fantastic different qualities that's in forests. And then that continues downstream. So the paper industry, especially, consumes a lot of energy. And since it has all this bioenergy available, it uses a lot of that in the process. So it's actually taken out of the energy equation that we could use for other things. It's used to make paper, which is, I think it's a waste. And then the product, the sawn products, are just like a small percentage of a small percentage. There's fairly little that reaches the market. So on the other hand, we have this sort of natural forest, but then we have all these little weird small volumes of different species and different qualities, 5 years at a time. That is a challenge for the logistics and how to find a market for it. So we need to find something that's sort of the equivalent of what the paper and industrial services is for the traditional forestry, that sort of fits into a natural forest to make this sort of work. And I don't think we can't have one big actor, because then we're back into large volumes and the same problem again. But we need a sort of a wide market of that wants alternative qualities from the forests. So I would like to talk about one practical example that a project that we were involved in 2024. We were asked from a project leader in Gothenburg municipality. They were planning to build a special care housing, and they wanted to build it from locally produced studs. So the constructive materials should be produced locally. That was basically it. So we got the call if we could make that and deliver that. But we turned it around and said that we would rather try and help them set up this alternative value chain locally, not only for this project, but to sort of continuously work like this. Because Gothenburg has 11,000 hectares of forest that is sort of taken out of clear cutting model. They have a forest policy that's sort of they have very high ambitions with it to be more biologically diverse, but they don't have a market model for it, so they're losing money on it. So this was an opportunity to find a suitable use for it. So basically, what we suggested was to set up everything around Gothenburg. This is the whole production chain from forest to the building and all the actors. So the one there is where the forest stand was, or is, because it was just selectively taken some of the trees out. And then we decided to work with the labor market unit has working teams that are where they're helping people to get back into society. They have, for different reasons, have struggled to maintain a job. And they are usually doing simpler tasks in parks and stuff to have something to do to practice different labors. But they were a huge resource, so we wanted to build a production around them, one of these work teams. And they also have a lot of the basic machineries. I know that they had a sawmill, a small band sawmill that we could work from. So we suggested that we did a cooperation between them and us, basically. So the forest stand was sort of marked for to take out about 120 trees to give more diversity and more deciduous trees in this area. So that was already planned, and we just simply wanted to rewrite the project to fit the timber that we could get our hands on, basically. So really, sure, everything happened in parallel here. So this is like the whole process in 1 year. Up in the upper left corner, that's as soon as we had sort of the go sign that we could start, we started in making an inventory of the trees, what exact trees, the diameter and height and the quality of them. Simultaneously, we started to looking into what the project wanted or needed, and if that could be altered to fit sort of what we had at hand. And as soon as we had sort of a grasp of the timber qualities that we needed, the work in the forest started immediately with all these people who were training on these different sort of manual felling and debranching, etc. So they started immediately, and parallel to that, we were planning the rest of the production. So when the lumber came to these work teams, they were prepared with sewing instructions. We had added some machineries to sort of fill in the holes so we could actually make these studs and beams. The drying process is one of these things that you really need to take account for how long time it takes, but also the risk of not reaching the quality that you need. So we did a split where we dried some without sort of an outdoors drying, but parallel to that also dried some at us in our vacuum kiln to make sure that we could deliver something. So then in order to classify the timber, we applied to be certified to make these classification for this sort of distribute process. So we got that certification in August, which was just about time to sort of educate three guys to do the sorting. So they were quality sorting the timber so that it could be classified and then sent off to the building site in December. So the thing with this is that it's a really parallel workflow. It's really adaptive and flexible. So we changed the course multiple times. A lot of people were terrified because it's usually very like a pipe that you do one thing after the other and handing over responsibility. But here we were all involved in the whole process. And that made it possible to change things in the project, talk to the entrepreneur and or the construct. Oh, I don't know if I find the right entrepreneur. Never
The
mind.
contractor.
The
Yeah.
contractor. Okay. And it was astonishing how far we could get with sort of a very complex workflow. And the best thing about it is that this is the forest that we took all the timber out from. It not only does it look okay, and this is immediately after we took out 120 full-grown trees here. They were really careful about not damaging the ground. Really planned everything. And this manual work is so elegant that you can really avoid doing any damage to the remaining trees or the ground. So people in the nearby area were really glad to see this. But the real effect is happening from now and the coming 20 years, where you have all the you have so much more light in here. So it will be an explosion of different species of trees growing into these sort of pockets that we have created. And from here, we can continuously take timber out from this forest stand and other forest stands like this without sort of removing it. And in 20 years, we can start taking birch and aspen out here as well, now that we have a method for it. So that is the next step. We have added to our certification to classify other species for constructive purposes. So we're looking now at birch, which is already now in our certification to classify, and also aspen for in the coming 2 years. And that is maybe a small change. It is for architects and planners, and it obviously means you have different constructive or properties. Birch is stronger than spruce and pine. But it also means that there's an economical model and it's sort of an excuse to have more of like a greater variation. This is like the market that we were looking for, or one of them. So we are already into the third project of the same type now. And the complexity of and the ambition is like rapidly increasing. So once you've done it once, you can do it again and again, and it spreads sideways. So that is
Yeah, that's it.
almost in time. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, we've got a few questions coming through. So we had one question that was about clear felling. Says clear felling operators argue that their method is less damaging to the ground as you don't enter the woods very often, unlike with continuous cover forestry. What is your take on that?
Well,
What's your
actually,
rebuttal?
you do enter the forest very often. As Oscar was mentioning, it's you do thinning twice.
Yeah, in the late sort of from 30 years for the rest of the day, you go in and enter with machines. But it's both true and false. It is possible to be sort of make more or less damage with big machines, depending on when you're there. If you're there in the wintertime, it could be minimal damage. The biggest damage is that you sort of reset the whole system before planting, so that you want to disturb sort of the ground to restart it and to remove it's sort of in the plan to try and destroy it. And then on top of that, you also, by being like doing your job poorly or in the wrong season, you can also make huge damage in the water flows and which is very common to see. So more false than true.
Good, that's a good strong answer. We got another question. Is continuous cover forestry difficult to promote as it's slower? Is it more expensive?
It is as until you have a market for it. So on paper, it's a lot more profitable. And in some areas in Europe, it is absolutely more profitable because you have a completely different price list. The problem is the logistics and reaching your market and having. For us, that also needs to buy timber or of special assortments of timber. We also want a reliability, so we don't just want to find that special perfect birch once. We want to find it every year. So it has to be a lot more actors. So it's in theory, it's a lot more profitable if we can get there.
But we also have a problem we have a huge problem with the market here. As we were saying, that's 96% clear-cut felling. And that means that, it's a value chain. So the 96% also accounts for the market. So it's like a monopoly. It's a market that does not work. So everyone who tries to do things differently are sort of outside of the market. But when we do work with the municipality of Gothenburg, it's a different thing because they have the whole value chain. They have the forest, they have the workers and the machines, and also the need to build.
Yeah.
So it's easier to be. They are like a strong actor and can do everything in a bubble, in a filter bubble.
Yeah.
But I would say that the market is our biggest problem.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there are two more parts of that question. The one is sort of it grows slower, and that's not necessarily true. And also that's a whole discussion of itself, but the jury is still out, I think, on where that ends. It varies on different sites, but you have to put a lot less energy into a self sort of maintained forest. And you also have you can have a lot of more quality wood in the total volume that you own. So you're only selling the best all the time. So that can really be a thing. And then also remember that on this industrial market, you as a forest owner are not working with industrial volumes, but you get the industrial price list. So every other actor in this chain, even the sawmills, are suffering from really small margins. So that's just a general problem. So it's not really that good as it is.
I suppose a follow-on question. We've got a few in that are very much related to that. How is it best to be regulated then? If you've got a market that's not working for the sort of the sustainable timber industry, is it the FSC certifiers? Is it the PEFC, those certification boards?
Yeah, we touched on that briefly
Yeah.
in our discussions, and unfortunately, this is set on a national level, the FSC, and very unfortunately, it doesn't work in Sweden. Maybe it works better with you, but here we are having problems, huge problem, because yeah, all sorts of timber end up as FSC classified. But I think that what we believe, since we are members of the EU, we really hope that they will, come
Sounds
and
like
decide for
Yeah.
us, take over. That would be better. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's best to be done on an EU regulation level.
Yeah.
And I suppose then it's lobbying that's the problem currently. There's people lobbying them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the FSC, by the way, it's environmental sustainability, but it also production qualities. So you have to, it sometimes works against environmental goals because and this is many cases where you have to take down your forest because it's deemed to not living up to the production capabilities. So it's not an environmental certification.
In Sweden.
We
don't know about you guys, but the municipality of Gothenburg, they left the FSC
for that reason.
Certification for this reason. They were forced to clear fell a forest and they did not want to, so they left.
Are you aware of other countries that are doing similar things? So the European regulation standard is probably the floor of it. And are there any countries that are going above and beyond that, or above and beyond the FSC requirements as well?
When it comes to FSC, I don't know, but forestry, we always talk about Germany, that they know better than us, about forestry. But
yeah, and also France, and I think Switzerland and Austria are further ahead when it comes to working with unique assortments of timber. They have a more flexible production chain from the forest, which makes these markets for sort of extraordinary timbers that we don't have at all in Sweden, even though we have the trees here as well.
Great. So we've got another question that's come in just now. This looks good. So this is from Oliver. I've been following the Swedish forestry model / more of everything controversy for a while. I wanted to ask, how aware do you think Swedish architects are about these issues? How many architects are there, and what level of networks are there already doing, trying to set up these approaches as similar, comparable to what you're doing? So how much of a industry, how aware are the industry in Sweden about this?
Yeah, there's a lot of lobbies targeting architects too. And actually, ACAN Sweden, we are working right now because we want to stop the economical collaboration between the forest industries, the business organization, and the Association of Swedish Architects, because they spend a lot of money like educating architects at the university and also practicing architects. So a lot of architects know and are really care about this, but many do not know yet because all the information they have on forestry and sustainable use of timber comes from this kind of forestry, the forest industry itself.
And also the architectural schools are, the literature, 90% comes from the industry. It's sort of, they are very early on are adapted into building industrial suitable methods, and do not know so much knowledge about wood as the technical properties and the differences between species of wood, but rather just having these very early on in the education, they are sort of taught to draw similar type of buildings suitable to the industry, which is a huge damage. But I think people are becoming more aware rapidly now. So some things are changing really fast now. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah, we're positive.
Thank you. Just as a follow-on to that, Oliver had a second question, which I think would be good to get people to engage with in the chat. He's asked to everyone participating in the meeting today, really, did you know about this issue before today's meeting? And so how aware are you about the issues with Nordic wood and timber? Maybe in the chat, if you find his message and give it a thumbs up if you did know about it, or leave it if you didn't, and we'll do a quick sum up at the end. It's useful to know whether this is coming for the first time for people, whether they've been aware of this for a while. Got a question. What percentage of existing Swedish forests have continuous cover? So how much of a wholesale change would it be for Sweden if they started to adopt this slowly?
You know the percentage?
So I didn't get the question really.
Is the question how much sort of natural forests? Or
yes, I suppose yes.
Yeah. I think that we should. Well, this is difficult because you can make a. I'm not sure anyone could really answer this because you can protect forest. You need to protect some parts of the forest. The EU tells us 30%, and I think we are at 20%. But this percentage, this part of your property that you protect, you can sort of move it around. So you protect with high conservation values, and then when you need to cut it, you just move it to another part. So it may be formally protected, but the quality of it when it comes to biology is quite uncertain. But I don't.
But if you want an intuitive, honest sort of image of how bad it is, you can just zoom in on Google Earth and see the patchwork. Because whenever you see these patchworks and these logging roads look like worms everywhere, you can see that is sort of a industrially adapted forest. And it used to be that large of the northern parts and did not have these patterns. And but now it's like everywhere. So it's that's sort of the trademark of of the forest industry, and it's very little left, and it's rapidly cutting down natural forests in around us where we have our forest, for example, and it's a horrible thing to witness.
But maybe check with the Frida Skogen and Protect the Forest. Someone mentioned that following the More of Everything movie, maybe at the site, because they write about those things. They are really good at. Yeah, maybe check there.
Great. So we've got a final question now, because we'll be doing a bit of a sum up at the end of the campaign. So the last question would be, should architects shift their perception and behavior of timber specification to look at what is available rather than what they want? So are we missing a different way of procuring timber that is less industrialized and related more to what is available?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. It's not easy because you have to sort of build your own bridge as you go, right? It's so many things that has to be done differently. And I know that it took me 15 years of experience before trying to attempt this in a sort of in a large scale. So it does need to be you have to be patient, I think, but look for that opportunity where, like in this little small part, we can do this to find these economical model to sort of encourage people to try and sort of create these markets. And architects have the knowledge and the capability to fill that role for sure. So yeah,
That's great. It's nice way to end it.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining in for a really rich discussion. I think all of us as well are learning a lot every time that we engage with this issue. There's a lot that goes on before we even get to specifying things. So this event is the launch event for a campaign that ACAN UK are running to explore the relationship between construction, timber, sustainable forestry, and improved biodiversity. I should be sharing my screen. Give me one sec. Where was the screen share on?
I can do if you want.
I'm on it. There we go. So yeah, mass timber production via quick-grown monocultural and soil-depleting forestry practice risks a false carbon fix that does not follow through for ecology, soil health, nor carbon storage, as we've seen. Whilst continuing to advocate for increased use of timber in place of more carbon-intensive materials, we need to be honest about the urgent need for habitat-centric approaches to forestry. Architects and specifiers must become empowered to generate the demand for better forestry. We're starting this campaign with a series of upskilling events and research areas to demystify the complex topic for ourselves. And we're currently looking for support to grow and strengthen this campaign. As you can see, there's plenty to be discovered and plenty to research. And we've got a call out open at the moment for anyone who would like to join us to help. We're specifically looking for a research team, people who are available to dive deeper into a specific topic in the area. Or if you're already knowledgeable in this area, we're also looking for some experts to support with technical advice. So please scan that QR code on the screen or get in touch with us later to fill out a very short application form to express your interest. We will be holding more events in the new academic year, so from September, including further webinars with speaker panels, and we've got some exciting opportunities to go on site visits. So do join our chat on Discord to keep up to date with these and to join in the conversation. And finally, if you'd like to watch any of ACAN's past webinar events, you can find them on our YouTube channel.